Hey everyone, welcome back to another Flash recap and review. Today I'm talking about The Flash Season 6, Episode 17, entitled Liberation. If you haven't seen this episode, pause the video, open a new tab, and go to cwtv.com where you can watch the episode for free, then come back here because I am talking spoilers. Alright, so up front, I'm gonna be honest with you all, I'm very conflicted about this episode. Like, it gave me some things that I wanted, that I've been waiting for, like the whole Mirror Iris thing to come to an end, but it raised some new issues, and so it was just frustrating. I don't even really know how to put it, so let's just get right into it. First thing we see is the group trying to test out the new Speed Force, which is this big machine that they have in the Speed Lab. They try it out, it doesn't work, and everybody's sad. Like, it comes close to working, and it doesn't. I feel like they're gonna probably wait for that to happen, maybe not next week, but maybe the week after. Also, it really depends because, you know, the season's gonna get cut short probably, so hopefully the Speed Force thing gets fixed before things get really, really crazy. I mean, they're already crazy by the end of this episode. Anyways, so that doesn't work. Cecile comes in after the failed experiment and tries to convince Barry to go check on Iris, and he kind of blows her off to try to make it seem that Barry's just kind of hurt because of being kicked out. Like, try to make it seem like he's just really distant from her, and he says that he misses her and he wants Cecile to tell her that. But then later on we find out it's because he is suspicious of her now and he knows that that is not the real Iris. Finally, when we see that scene where Cecile walks into the house and sees all the boxes and the board of notes and stuff, I was applauding. I was actually clapping at this part. Like, finally, this man knows that this is not his wife. I mean, it's been like, what, 8 episodes now? That's insane. How did it take him this long to figure it out? And the thing is, I know in the beginning, Joe kind of gaslit him, unintentionally, but he gaslit him and tried to convince him that it wasn't anything wrong with Iris, that just it's part of marriage and people grow apart. But that was really dumb, and of course it made it Barry kind of brush off this whole thing. And then there's Cecile, who after seeing all the stuff Barry has, all the evidence has, almost does the exact same thing and almost convinces Barry that he's wrong. And again, to me that's great, especially for her because she can sense emotion, she's an empath. So first of all, it's really crazy that she has not picked up anything on Iris up to this point. But secondly, she has to know that Barry is like completely honest about what he's feeling and that all this evidence does mean something. So it was kind of weird at first that she almost didn't take him seriously. Now we go over to the Mirror Gang, that's what I'm gonna call them for this video, which is Mirror Iris, Mirror Camilla, and Mirror Singh. These three are preparing for something. Eva has them getting ready for her liberation, roll credits. So she's enacting the final parts of her plan to escape from the mirror dimension, which involves putting a bunch of mirrors in Barry and Iris' apartment, which comes into play later, but in the moment it did seem kind of weird. We can kind of see that Mirror Iris is acting slightly different. Like, when I was watching this and the last couple episodes, it kind of seemed like she was going soft and possibly catching real feelings for Barry, or maybe having doubts about what she was doing, and they do explore that in this episode, which I thought was good. But you can see something's off, and the other members of the Mirror Gang kind of question her about it, but it doesn't really get to anywhere just yet. The Mirror Gang has a new mission to now go to Argus to get a blood sample from Bloodwork. He's back. They need his blood as the final piece to the puzzle of getting Ava McCulloch out of the mirror dimension. There's a cool scene where they go to meet Bloodwork and try and get the blood from him. Mirror Camilla sacrifices herself to disrupt the power grid or the security system, something like that. I'm not really sure about the science behind this. They didn't really explain it much, but basically she kills herself and that causes the whole system to go haywire, allowing Bloodwork to escape from the prison. Bloodwork escapes from the prison and then attacks Singh and then grabs Iris and puts her in a chokehold like all the Flash villains do. I think it's a signature thing at this point. Like, Savitar has done it, Reverse Flash has done it, Zoom has done it definitely. Like, all the big villains, except for maybe the Thinker, have like put one of the heroes in some kind of chokehold. It's kind of weird. But anyways, he can tell that there's some kind of hesitation and he keeps asking her, what is your thing? What is it you're doing here? What's your purpose? What do you want? What do you want? And she finally admits that she wants to be human. So then we realize it's not necessarily that she's catching feelings for Barry, it's more of just that she's becoming less of a clone, less of a mirror image of Iris and becoming more of a person herself, I guess, or striving to be that, which I think is an interesting take. And I wish they had explored that earlier, but it is what it is. Back at Star Labs, Barry has Nash Wells and Cecile there with him, and they set up a trap for Iris. So after the whole blood work thing and they get the sample from blood work, Iris is called away and she is cornered by everybody basically. Before they have this sort of intervention, Barry did find the images from Camilla's camera by breaking into the citizen office. And now he has that as evidence, and he confronts Iris, says, "You're not the real Iris. I have this picture of you. Explain this." And she tries to come up with some lame excuse. So Barry's like, "Okay, well, if you're the real Iris, I can use this device on you, and it should show that you are not real. Like, you are some prismatic thing." I forgot the exact language. They use it on Iris, and it doesn't work. She then flips it and uses it on Barry, and it causes him to look like he's a mirror clone, which for a second I was like, are you serious? What? After seeing this, Cecile and Nash Wells turn on Barry, which was like, oh my goodness. This part is where I really was frustrated. Like, are you serious? They're dragging this on longer. I'm so tired. It turns out Ava McCulloch, who apparently can see anybody through any reflection anywhere. She doesn't just need mirrors specifically. So you see that she uses the cart that they have in the lab to switch out the devices to make it look like Barry is the mirror clone. Iris goes back to the apartment now to finish the plan with Ava. Back at Star Labs, Cecile comes to her senses and realizes Barry is telling the truth and sets him free so he can go save his wife. Finally, someone has some sense. These two confront each other, and before Barry can stop her, Iris uses Bloodwork's blood to complete the portal so then Ava McCulloch can now come back. This then leads to this big fight scene where Iris turns into basically the T-1000 with the knife hands, and they start fighting each other. She starts cutting him up through the mirrors. Like, she can stick her hand through a mirror, and then it comes out through one of the other mirrors they had set up in the apartment, and this big fight scene. And then Ava McCulloch makes it rain down glass to cut Barry even more, and because of his speed is going down, he can't heal as fast, so he's getting really wrecked. Like, this is probably like one of the worst beatings he's gotten in the show, because he's just completely getting cut up. And at the last minute, Iris goes soft for Barry, and Barry kind of convinces her to turn away from what she's doing and try and strive for being human again. Like, he appeals to that part of Iris that is in her, and I think that was interesting. That's kind of what Iris did for Barry, or the real Iris did for Barry during the whole Bloodwork thing when he was being possessed or controlled by Bloodwork. So that was an interesting parallel. And then Ava sees this and like, yeah, you can't exist anymore, and basically kills off Mirror Iris, and she disappears. Ava has the ability now to step out of the mirror and wreak havoc on the real world. Now, back in the mirror dimension, Iris finds a secret room behind the mirror that Ava McCulloch has been using this whole time, and learns the truth about Ava, that she's actually evil and that this has all been part of her plan from the beginning to capture Iris and use her in her plan to get back at her husband. Iris does this really cool thing where she makes Ava freak out, which is how Barry actually stops Mirror Iris, is she kind of reminds Ava that, hey, you keep calling Carver your husband still, so maybe you still love him, blah, blah, and then it causes Ava McCulloch to freak out, which then causes Mirror Iris to freak out because they're connected, which was a really smart plan. But then Iris is still tied up. She gets tied up to a chair. Now, one thing that kind of bothered me about this whole thing is that when Ava escapes, you clearly see that she presses this button on this device that then causes the mirror to open up, to cause the portal to open up, right? And Iris is right there when it was happening. But then when it's just Iris and Barry there, Iris does not use the same device. Theoretically, Iris should be able to escape too, because if she presses that button, it should cause the same reaction that happened when Ava walked through. Since Bloodwork's blood is still probably on the mirror, right? It's still a part of the mirror. I'm assuming that's how it works. I don't think it was like a one-time thing. They didn't say it like that. Overall, that whole Mirror Iris thing was intriguing, but it was also frustrating because not only did we get more gaslighting, but we also did not get regular Iris back. She's still trapped in the mirror along with Camilla and Singh, which she says she has to go look for them. But I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get some finality to that Ava is just free now, and she is a cool villain, I'll admit that. But I think there's definitely more I was expecting from this episode, so again, I have some mixed feelings. There's also a story about Caitlin, who's sick from all of her injuries fighting the black hole assassins, and Ralph and Cisco heal her. I mean, there's not really much to that story, and I'm not sure if this is just because of Caitlin Panabaker's pregnancy that they just did this kind of smaller story for her, but it didn't really add that much to the episode, in my opinion. It was just kind of there. Overall, I thought this episode was fine. I mean, I would say it's more disappointing / frustrating for me, because it seemed like this whole Mirror Iris thing was going to come to an end, and it sort of did, because Mirror Iris is gone, and Barry does know that Iris is trapped in the mirror, but she's still trapped in the mirror, so she Of course, she can help by saving Camilla and Singh, but besides that, I feel like she's still taking a backseat to the black hole thing now. And she spent most of this half of the season trapped in the mirror, which kind of sucks. I'm interested to see where the story of Ava McCulloch goes, because she does seem to be a pretty formidable villain. But otherwise, it's just kind of eh. I am also excited to see the new Speed Force. I hope it comes soon. But again, we may not get finality to some things just because of what's going on in the world and the fact that they can't film the last 2 episodes of the season. So we'll see where it goes. What did you think about this episode of The Flash? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.